Hey guys, this is Jeff with Cake Coaching, and today I am talking to Heidi Thompson with Evolve Your Wedding Business. Hi Heidi.
Hi.
And thank you so much for being with us today. We have a lot to talk about, but first I just want to get to know you a little bit. So I'd love to know how you got into helping vendors with marketing.
Sure. Well, I was working in the wedding industry myself as I was planning some weddings and kind of got into developing a niche, depending where you're from, for myself. And was noticing that there wasn't a whole lot out there for people who wanted something other than white and fluffy. So I took my event experience and created an event throughout the UK called the Alternative Wedding Fair, which was awesome. We brought together all sorts of really impressive vendors that a lot of people would have never known about had they not all been collected together in one place like that. And from that, and from watching them and observing them, how they exhibited, I realized, okay, they probably need some help with their marketing based on the way that they're doing things and trying to make sales. And actually, my day job experience has always been in marketing, and I kind of just took it for granted. So I thought, hey, why not combine these two different fields together and create something?
Very cool. Now, the name of your business is Evolve Your Wedding Business, and the link is evolveyourweddingbusiness.com. And I want to know, what the heck does that mean? What does evolving your business mean to you?
I feel like when you first start your business, you're like this little fledgling and you're still kind of learning what you're doing, and you're just trying to develop what works, what doesn't work. And I really do see it as it's almost an evolutionary process. It is something that, the strong things survive and you continue to implement the things that work, and they continue to make you stronger and stronger and stronger as a business person, and then you just drop the stuff that isn't necessarily working.
Very cool. So it's kind of this growth process.
Yeah,
That we go
Darwinian way of looking at it.
Nice, yeah. We've talked a little bit in the past about generosity, and that was something that we connected on. And I'd love to hear from you just a little bit about how generosity shows up in your own business.
Yeah, well, I think if anyone goes to my site that's not familiar with me, you see there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of content, and something I've run into with the people that I work with is they're afraid of giving too much away. And I'm of the mind that there is no such thing. Just, my husband could teach you how to build a house. That doesn't mean you're going to do it. So he's still going to be in business. There's always going to be people who want to work with you. So I'm a big believer in that. And, just giving as much as you possibly can to people, not only to prove your expertise, but to show that that's the kind of person you are. You're not just showing up with a handout and expecting them to pay you immediately without proving yourself. On top of that, working with people like yourself, other people in the industry, there's really, in my opinion, two mindsets about competition. It's either everyone's your competition or no one's your competition. And the everyone's your competition mindset is scary, and it looks horrible.
Yeah.
You're fearful of everyone and everything.
Totally.
And it's like, well, it's so much better if, people like you and I and the other people that we work with can join forces and all help each other, really, because everyone's getting something out of it.
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in that, as you know, and that's why we can have this awesome conversation today, because we work with the same people, but we do very different things. I think we're in a very complementary role. What do you think is behind that fear for a wedding vendor who's like, they don't want to give away the farm?
Yeah, I think it is this mentality that you have the secret sauce. And really, with the internet these days, people can find out anything. They can find out how to, DJ their own wedding, get their friend to take photos, all these other things. But there's a very large portion of people who are not going to want that. They want a professional. And even if you tell them exactly how to do it, I would say at least 75% are going to say, no, there's no way I can do that. I mean, it's the reason I still buy, anything artistic, horrible at. My artistic ability tops out at about paint.
Okay.
Yeah, like Microsoft Paint, not like
Right.
real paint.
Yeah.
So, I am more than happy. I could learn, but I'm more than happy to pay a graphic designer to do things for me because they're the expert. So I think it is like this mentality that you have this secret sauce, you need to protect it. But really, I think what that needs to transition to is, what is your secret sauce as a professional? What do you offer that is different? And that nobody can copy.
That's awesome. I met a photographer at a show who was a very old school photographer, and he claimed, his big claim to fame was, I came up with these amazing shots, but then they ended up online and everybody copied them. And he was just like super pissed about that. He's like, everybody stole my great idea. And for him, he thought his secret sauce was just that one idea that he came up with.
Yeah, like the
tactic. That was his thing. But it sounds like what you're saying is his secret sauce is really the ability to come up with those, interesting styles.
Right, that's what you get
pictures.
when you go to him. That's what you come to expect.
That's cool. So that would have been a big shift for him. I don't know if he was there. I don't know if he was ready to make that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like you have to be there. You have to be ready to accept that. And that's the thing, is like you could probably find the recipe for Coca-Cola online. Are you going to make Coca-Cola, or are you going to go to the store and buy it?
Right.
It's a convenience factor.
Well, and I think that when you give away your expertise and you give away your knowledge, people get to see that. And the understanding is there's more of it. You can't give away all of your expertise. I think that's something that people need to learn.
Yeah, and it's oh my God, Jeff is telling me this for free. What is he going to tell me when I start paying him?
Exactly. That's a great point. So let's talk about, I want to talk about some of the wedding vendors that you work with. And one of my big questions for you is, what is one of the biggest questions that you get asked by wedding vendors about marketing?
There's a couple. Usually it's, why isn't fill in the blank working?
Okay.
Or how do I book more weddings? Which of course is a massively broad question. There's about a million things to answer.
What is one common thing that isn't working that they say, why isn't this working?
Something I get asked a lot about, and that I see in a lot of like Facebook groups, forums, things like that, are Facebook ads. And they just say Facebook ads don't work. And I hate when people tell people things like so definitive like that. Okay, they didn't work for you in this one particular instance. Maybe if you switch something up a little bit, it will work. So you can't just advertise the homepage of your website and expect people to then buy things from you. Okay. You could advertise one particular thing in particular. You could advertise a free offer, a free video series, a free download, something like that. And then that gives you an in with them, and you can communicate with them further.
Sure. Do you think a lot of people that feel like those advertisements don't work are trying to like send people to their homepage? Or trying to send people to a generic page versus a squeeze or a landing page?
Yeah, definitely.
Or other Facebook content?
Yeah, I think a lot of those people don't understand the principle of when you want to make a sale with somebody, it's not all that different from dating. So you wouldn't run up to someone at a bar and ask them to marry you, because that would be weird and probably get smacked. But you start talking to somebody, maybe you buy them a drink, maybe you get their phone number, go out with them a couple times. Okay, see how things develop. And that's not all that different from a sales cycle for any business. I mean, if you think about how many times have you seen, a logo, a commercial, information about a business before you actually thought to go and patronize that business?
Sure. I love that you brought up the relationship thing. I always come back to
exactly
everything.
The same.
Everything comes back to dating. It really does. It's amazing how that works. Where else have you seen a wedding vendor, try and move too fast in terms of making a sale? Where are they jumping the gun?
A lot on social media too. They say, book me, blah, 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 here's my website. Like, well, even if I was ready to book somebody, why?
Mm.
Why you? What makes you special? And if I go to your site and I'm not ready and I'm going to book 6 months from now, am I really going to remember this? So
Right.
is there a way I can sign up to get more information and I can come back to that later?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important too, because just because someone is looking at your site now doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to buy now. And a lot of research goes into weddings,
Mm-hmm.
like hundreds of hours of research. So you have to think people are coming back to your site over and over again.
Sure.
And what can you do to persuade them that you are the right person for them?
Mm-hmm.
And give them the information they need. I always find that offering helpful information is going to set you apart from 99% of the other people who only talk about themselves.
Okay. Well, I think you've hit on some great things that people, some common mistakes that people make. What's one of the best things you've seen in terms of marketing that a wedding vendor has done where you went, that's awesome,
Oh,
well done?
geez. I think it's hard to come up with a specific
Right.
example. I think anything outside the box
Mm-hmm.
and anything particularly helpful. It's not in the wedding industry, but I saw
Mm-hmm.
something recently. I'm pretty sure it was Heineken that ran this. It was like this contest they did in an airport. And it may have been London Heathrow. It was a really big, busy airport. And pretty much you could spin the wheel, and wherever it landed, you had to go, and they would pay for it. And these people were already at the airport for something. It was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I sure, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like you would never forget that, something
Right.
that can just set you apart. And it really kind of depends who your competitors are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if everybody's talking about themselves, talk about your customers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's probably great advice, regardless of what your competitors are doing.
Yeah.
When you talk about somebody just saying on Facebook, "Book me now,"
Yeah.
that's not going to be super helpful.
Yeah. Well,
That's
when
not
it
what we
comes to
want to hear.
copywriting,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, what was that?
Oh, I said that's not what we want to hear as a consumer. I don't want to hear "book me." I want something useful or entertaining, something
Or at
that I
least tell
care
me
about.
why.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
And I
What?
think giving that context is really important.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like it just takes more time than the
Yeah,
swooping in and going for it.
it definitely does. But if you are, and there are a lot of things that build on that, a lot of people don't realize build on that. So, social media posts that are helpful, blog posts that are helpful, emails that are helpful if you have a email newsletter that goes out. All these things that you don't realize build on it
Mm.
definitely do and keep you top of mind.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we talked about was generosity. In a previous conversation we had, we kind of brainstormed a little bit, and I asked you, how can you be more generous in marketing? Because I think that being generous is one of the best ways to be successful. And a lot of us feel like we can't, but there are more ways to be generous than we think. So I wanted to make sure I asked you, how can you be generous in marketing when you don't have $1 billion budget?
I don't think you need a whole lot of money to do really good marketing. And actually, I had a position at a company that gave me a massive marketing budget, and I struggled to spend it because the most effective marketing isn't
Mm-hmm.
just throwing money at the wall.
Mm.
The most effective marketing is putting your hand out and trying to help somebody. Because really, in my opinion, marketing is there to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The consumer has a problem, or whoever the prospect is that you're trying to sell to has a problem. How are you going to solve that? And your marketing demonstrates that. So I think being generous in your advice, being generous in the content you produce, as well as when you see somebody asking a question, take the extra step to step in. Maybe it's a Facebook group or somewhere where they wouldn't expect, and just answer it. I've gotten the, the most like flabbergasted responses from people like that. Like, oh, well, you asked, so there
That's
you
awesome.
go.
So somebody who's not expecting it,
Right,
you
yeah,
just
like, does
went in and
anybody
asked.
know how to blah, 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 And then, oh, yeah, here's a really good article you could refer to. This is my personal experience. Let me know how it goes. It takes
Nice.
5 minutes.
Well, and it sounds like it was less about you sort of coming in and spamming them or advertising them, and more
Well,
about you
sure.
just being good to them and offering them something useful.
Well,
And
yeah,
now
and
they
I
kind of
think
know who you are.
wouldn't you want that yourself?
I do, yes.
So it goes back to that same thing. Like if you put a question out there, wouldn't you hope that someone would give you a genuine response instead of saying, if you pay me this, I will do it for you or show you
Right.
how to do it.
Absolutely. I think one of my biggest takeaways from this short conversation is just remembering that the bride is a person, you know, even if you're emailing a big list,
Yes.
those are real people on the other end. And it sounds like, I mean, that's one thing that I think comes through loud and clear. It's not new, but it's a really important message to, I think, always remember. Just to
Yeah.
remember that, you know, what do you think they really want to hear about, that they care about as people, you know, not as a demographic or as a target market, just like what would be really helpful or inspiring to them rather than how can I get somebody to buy today?
It's one of those things that's so simple that it's often forgotten. And not even just by people in the wedding industry, marketers and businesses on the whole.
Right.
They feel like they need to sell themselves by talking about themselves
Right.
instead of talking about the customer, what their problem is, and offering advice.
Well, thank you for that important reminder and for all the other great stuff you gave us today. Now, you have something that I want to make sure everybody who's watching knows about, which is a new online course called Mind the Gap.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about, there's also a video series with that. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, the course in itself, and as well as the video series that it comes out before the actual course does, is all about how to take all this great traffic that's coming to your website and actually turn it into booked weddings, which is something that has actually been inspired by the people that I've worked with. And they've found all this information on how to, get Facebook fans and Twitter followers, and they're coming to their site and reading their blog posts. Now what? Like, right. So how does this translate? So that's what the course is all about. It's a 12-week course that really walks you through it step by step.
Okay, I think that's a huge question that people have. A lot of people out there are getting tons of traffic, and they just don't know how to get them to call or how to get them to email. Is there anything you can give us as a teaser, some little tidbit about that, about how people can get more conversions or get more people to actually turn more of those leads into clients?
Well, yeah. Something we had talked about when we were talking about generosity in the previous conversation was, how do you build trust with people? And how do you get them to really trust what you're saying and trust what you're offering? And that is one of the topics that I'm going to be covering. Because people do business with people they trust. You don't see a really weird infomercial. I know you and I are both fans of infomercials.
That we are.
For comedic value, though, not because they're effective.
Right. Although they must be.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But I would say most people, if they see someone and they feel kind of scammy, everyone talks about the used car salesman. Well, no one wants to buy from someone like that. So there are a lot of things that you can do to put yourself in a position that makes you much more trustworthy. And that turns sales into an irky kind of ew conversation, instead going into a, hey, if you'd like to work with me, this is how to do it. Simple invitation.
Nice. So a lot more confident instead of the kind of icky desperation. You know, what can I do to earn your business right now today?
Oh, yeah, and people can smell desperation.
They can. We have
Don't be
noses
that
for
guy.
it. Don't be that guy. That's it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you guys watching want to check out more about Heidi's course, it's called Mind the Gap. The website is, I believe, mindthegapcourse.com, and I'll throw a link below the video too. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
All right, bye.